News just broke that 𝗕_𝑑 and Ripple had met with the Central Bank of Brazil.
I had a dog, and his name was Bingo.
And is in talks and negotiations right now for billions and billions of dollars of cross-border remittance payments.
Get some oxygen. No. Come on!
This is only more proof in the pudding, and it's being covered up by the mainstream media that XRP, even though I don't like it that much, could be a part.
Come on, girls. Quiet. Look.
Oh, look! The mother rhino is giving birth.
Of the new reserve currency globally. I added to my XRP position today.
Mommy!
Reluctantly, it's not my favorite of the cryptocurrencies because it's a lot more centralized than some of these other technologies, but I think it's a risk at this point not to own more of it with the adoption that I can't ignore, with major banks and institutions using it on Wall Street. And now with the announcement that came over the last couple of days, which was really being hidden by the mainstream media, 𝗕_𝑑, of course, meeting with the Central Bank of Brazil. Well, it's looking much more likely that this could be a part of the world reserve.
Cool! No, we have to get out of here!
Get in the Jeep. Quick, girl, get in.
On this Sunday night, the war in America. The riots rage out of control.
the Donald Trump Museum, dedicated to America's #1 citizen.
So, yeah, sure. That's a good question. We have brilliant people. We have a tremendous amount of money. And we have brilliant people that I'm taking from Wall Street with Secretary Mnuchin, who's done an incredible job, a brilliant guy. I'm taking from Wall Street people that I've known, that you all know, the top people in the world. They don't want money. They don't want, I mean, will they get something? I guess maybe they'll get, who knows, peanuts, what they want compared to what they would normally get. I'm taking the smartest, the most brilliant people in the world in finance.
Trump family.
Somebody criticized me the other day because they asked me what I do, and I said, I'm going to bomb the shit out of them. It's true. I don't care.
Friends, and I guess I have some very good enemies, and I like it that way somehow. And I really believe in trashing your enemies.
Inside, you will learn how Donald Trump's father left him a large
To hell.
inheritance.
But we have the smartest people in the world. We have the smartest, I don't even know if you know that. I think this could be the first time you've heard it. People like Larry Fink we're talking to, and that's BlackRock, and we have, the smartest
The
people.
45th President of the United States.
That will easily go down as the greatest president in the history of the United States. Me, Donald John Trump.
No! Hey, hey, wait, you coming with us upstairs? There we go, Sonny. We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
The easy way. We have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again.
Imagine that this line represents time. Prior to this point in time, somewhere in the past, the timeline skewed into this tangent, creating an alternate 1985.
What do you think have been some of the challenges in the payments industry so far? And what do you think are some of the opportunities going into the next decade?
Okay. Well, the first thing we're seeing is de-risking by some of the major players in the market. They're cutting down the number of correspondent relationships they have, which means that any external institutions, perhaps in Africa, are finding it very difficult to get bank accounts and to move their physical payments around the world. And here we're seeing an alternative payment market actually arising from here, more opportunity with that, lower cost of payments, and also using cryptocurrency instead of moving into fiat currency. So for ourselves, we're using Ripple in order to effect a payment transaction using a blockchain underlying enabling technology, but also using XRP cryptocurrency as the main one to handle on-demand liquidity.
Whoa, this is it. This is the part coming up, Doc.
No. This sucker's electrical. But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electric.
What did I just say?
Quantum plastic stores. This sucker's electrical. But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
1.21 gigawatts! 1.21 gigawatts! Great Scott!
What the hell is a gigawatt?
Now, I'm assuming you know Miguel Valles, who's the ex-head of XRP Markets. My understanding is that he recently left Ripple.
Yep.
Now, the most interesting thing that he has ever said, and I love some of the words that come out of the people at Ripple, because that is what has kept me so fascinated by this company for so long. He said that Ripple had a simple goal of making XRP the world's reserve digital currency. So the question I have is, do you think that Ripple will achieve this goal?
Well, see, my hopes are tied up with his vision, but that's why I joined Ripple. I mean, when I joined Ripple, it looked like Bitcoin with 2 extra columns: currency and who issued that currency. And so I want to live in the Star Trek world. And in the Star Trek world, it doesn't matter whether you're a Klingon, a Romulan, Federation, they could all buy dilithium crystals. But you can't do that if your form of value is all in a silo. And so Ripple was the first that basically had if you will, an intergalactic currency, something that could go everywhere. The great thing though, I mean, Bitcoin had that as well, but in Bitcoin, you could only have Bitcoin. On Ripple, you could have both the XRP, but you could also have a representation of all the other fiat currencies. So there was a way in.
If you are hearing this, it's a message from the past and from the future.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Spot and Dog.
Today, this meeting serves as a launch pad for the next chapter, the Great Reset. We have contributions from His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, from IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, and from many more in the next hour and a quarter. But to get us underway, let's hear from the forum's Executive Chairman and Founder, Professor Klaus Schwab.
Thank you, Adrian. It is obvious that we are in the midst of the most severe crisis the world has experienced since World War II. 75 years ago, countries and people came together to shape the post-war global order, which brought us decades of peace, increased global cooperation, and prosperity to hundreds of millions of people around the world. The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. It has laid bare the fundamental lack
concept of a fintech charter was based on the idea that traditionally banks did three things, but they don't necessarily have to do all three things to still be a bank, right? So the three things banks historically did was they took deposits, they made loans, and they were involved in payments. When the fintech charter was announced a few years ago, the idea was, what if we had a company that made loans but didn't necessarily take deposits? Could that be a bank? And the OCC's answer was, yeah, we think a lending company could be a bank even if it doesn't take deposits. Well, if you think about a crypto company, a lot of what these tokens are really payments applications. They're means of transmitting value on a blockchain from person A to person B to person C without necessarily going through a central intermediary. But there are also other kinds of payments companies that aren't blockchain companies. Think about Stripe and PayPal and others. And so one of the things I think we have to ask ourselves as an agency is if it makes sense to have a non-depository lending charter, which was the original fintech concept, would it also make sense to have a non-depository payments charter? I don't know the answer to that, but these are questions that we're going to ask. And if the answer were yes, we think that a payments charter is not dissimilar to a fintech charter at some point in the future, then you can well imagine that it wouldn't just be the traditional payments companies like Stripe and PayPal that would want to be part of that environment. There may be crypto companies that would see that as an alternative to a money transmission license and would give them a national platform for business. So these are all things that we'll explore in our innovation office, and I think we'll get the attention that they deserve.
What we want to do in Davos this year in this respect is to push the reset button. Let me explain. The world is much too much still caught in a crisis management mode. And we forget that we should take now into our hands and we should look for solutions for the really fundamental issues. We should look at our future in a much more constructive, in a much more strategic way. And that's what Davos is about. We have a choice to remain passive, which would lead to the amplification of many of the trends we see today. Polarization, nationalism, racism, and ultimately increased social unrest and conflict. But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract, particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again. And we can make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives. In short, we need a great reset.
Creeping down my skin, I can feel it spreading when it begins. Oh fool, don't you know the rules? You should steer away before you lose. And boom, you're waiting in my room, and I can see you smiling. I seal my doom. Shiver down my skin when I see you moving. I can't breathe. My mind is lying down your hips, running down your curves, captured by your lips. And boom, you're waiting in my room, and I can see you smiling. I seal my doom. And soon he's gonna send his goons. The price on my head, we're flying till the moon. And when it will be late to find a way to escape, they're gonna take your lipstick and mark it on my grave. I'm crazy for a woman, careless to the clues. The secret name was Trouble, and her daggers were the fuse. Cause boom, you're waiting in my room, and I can see you smiling.